brother sibling movie.
For the first time ever, we are starting this recording with 0 audio issues. Not one. I can hear Evan. Evan can hear me. Evan doesn't sound like a chipmunk. My fucking bing bong cord is not buzzing. What I don't know what we did, but
I don't know
the
what we did to
sauce.
deserve this, but I'll take it. Hey, cheers.
Cheers. What are you drinking?
Red wine. Duh.
Well, bitch. What kind?
Ménage à trois. Red blend. In honor
Oh.
in honor of Chocolat, I thought I
Oh,
would
fuck.
do something that pairs well with a chocolat.
Fuck. I should have done that. I have some red wine. I should have done that. Oh, well.
This
Another.
was not planned.
Okay,
I
great.
had some red wine unopened in the trunk of my car, and I thought
Oh,
I should drink a drink for
as
this.
as two locals of Sonoma County wine country, I can confirm that
It
leaving a
happens.
bottle of wine in your trunk of your car where it can move around a lot, there's a highly variable temperature, is
Yeah,
the best place to store your wine.
absolutely. Even white trash in Sonoma County have bottles of wine hanging out just
Oh
in
my
every
god.
nook and cranny of their existence.
It like it's still the thing that when I tell people like growing up, wine is like it's like a currency. People
It
will
is.
like pay you with, a bottle of like $50 and a $200 bottle of wine and you're like, "Holy shit. All right."
When I was catering as a teenager in, wineries around Sonoma
Oh
County,
man.
I was angry that I wasn't old enough to get the bottles of free wine that everybody else got at the end of their
I mean, I'm surprised they weren't
shifts.
just I'm surprised they weren't like, "Now you can't have a bottle of wine," and then as you left, they're just like,
Wink,
"Sorry,
wink.
buddy."
Yeah. I'm sure they didn't want to encourage underage drinking, which is probably the morally correct and legal thing to do.
Yeah, but like, come on.
But come on, I was going to find a way to get it anyway. So.
Yeah, like you were gonna get it one way or the other. Like, what are you
And
gonna
now
do?
and
It's
and now I'm going to get it with this wine.
okay, okay, okay.
You know what I'm talking about. What do you think? You want to just get into this?
Let's fucking go.
I looked at the outline to see if you added your flair, and I see that you did. Hooray.
I did.
Way to go. Way to go, Flair Mare. That one's free. You can have it. That's all yours.
Oh my god. All
Takes a
right.
sip of self-satisfaction. Oh man, I'm gonna be sassy wine drunk for this one, so watch out. I'm feeling good. I just went on a
uh,
hike. I went to the gym
I
yesterday.
know.
I've been getting drunk on wine for the last 2 days, which is its own kind of special drunkenness. And in general, I'm probably feeling not horrible about my life. So yeah, welcome,
Wow.
welcome to Red Wine Evan. Welcome to
I
my Diane Lane years. I'm in my under the Tuscan sun phase of my life. Thank you
Oh
very
my
much.
god. Evan, okay, listeners, literally since Evan and I started talking about doing this podcast, the themed season that I have been pushing since day one is middle-aged women are a vibe because I just wanna talk about Under the Tuscan Sun, like,
Oh
so
yeah,
badly.
yeah, and Eat, Pray, Love, and Shirley
Eat, pray
Valentine, and
Yeah.
I forget what else is on those lists, but we got a solid starter three for sure.
We have a solid starter 3, and ugh,
Ooh, you know what we
we
should add to that list? It's not. It's more about a group of ladies, but do you remember that Ladies of SNL comedian movie with Amy Poehler, Wine
Yes, that's
Country?
called Wine Country.
Yeah.
That one
Little
uh,
hometown flair. We should do Santa Rosa movies too. That would be fun.
oh, Santa Rosa movies. There
Or
are
Sonoma
actually
County. We can take
I was
it
gonna
wider.
say, if we open it up to, like, Sonoma County, I think that there's a fair number of films. It'd be a wide array of them.
Did you know? Um, Friend of the pod, Keenan Dennison told me this, and I did not.
Keenan Dennison, we love them.
We love them, and I did not know this piece of trivia, but I always knew that the movie Scream, Wes Craven's Scream, 1996, had scenes filmed in and around Santa Rosa,
Yeah.
and I had always thought that there were scenes filmed in the high school, but I learned recently, apparently, Scream is unique in film history because you know how at the end of the credits they have a special thanks section. Scream has a no thanks at all to Santa Rosa High School at the end of the credits because they were
What?
slated to film all of the high school scenes. This is a movie
At
that
Santa Rosa High,
stars high schoolers at Santa Rosa High.
where
But
we went to high school, yes.
yes, our alma mater, if you will. Uh,
Yeah.
but apparently there were so many lame people in Santa Rosa, parents
Not
who were
surprising.
worried about the impact that filming a horror movie would have on the community. There was so much community outcry
Uh-huh.
that literally like a day before they were slated to start filming, Santa Rosa High School pulled out of their contract with Scream and Wes
With
Craven's
Wes
production
Craven.
company. Yeah. And we're like,
Oh my
we don't think
god.
this would be a good fit. They said it was going to interfere too much with the finals or midterms or whatever the hell students were doing at the time. And Wes Craven and team even made accommodations and were like, okay, like, fine, you don't want us to be there for 2 weeks. We can get what we need in 4 days. Can we have 4 days? And they were like,
Holy
no.
shit.
And they still said no. And it completely fucked up the schedule and it screwed the thing over. And they had to change parts of the script to accommodate the fact that they weren't at this specific high school anymore with the sets that they had, the the locations that they had scouted. And
Holy
yeah,
shit.
so there's literally
Wow.
one of the only movies to have a no thanks to Santa Rosa High at the end. So that's our legacy, people. Way to
Yeah,
go, Santa Rosa.
that's what we bring to the table, a bunch of fear-mongering uptight bitches.
That's
Uh
right. That's wine country, baby. All
that's
right.
wine country baby. That's
Oh,
oh
brother.
god. That honestly nothing sounds more accurate to Santa Rosa than like, "Hey, we really want to do this cool thing," and being like, "Yeah, we can do a cool thing," and then a bunch of fucking uptight white women
Yeah, are
being
like,
like,
what if we
"Fuck the
didn't though?
children!" And it's
Yeah.
like, you realize you just cost that movie like millions of dollars? Like
Yeah. And all of the
millions.
children were probably like, cool,
Yeah,
let's
it
do
was
it.
yeah, what the fuck? Also, like, straight up, like, not to
Wes
brag on
Craven, master of horror. I mean, come on.
yeah. And also, like, not to brag on your high school because that's very lame, but just to brag on the
It
architecture,
is. Yes,
Santa Rosa High is objectively a beautiful building and
it
would
is.
make
Yeah.
an incredible film set. Like, it is what you want a high school to look like.
The front looks like
It's
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 the picture in the
beautiful.
dictionary of high school.
Yeah, this is what a high school looks like, and that's Santa Rosa High. Um,
Yeah.
so that's wow, that's incredible. I'm really happy to know that Santa Rosa has never been fun. Um,
That's right. Killing your
uh,
darlings since
kill
its
your
founding
darling.
in 18, I don't know when Santa Rosa was
Some
founded.
yeah, something. All right.
1833, named by Mexican colonists after Saint Rose of Lima. All right, there you go. 1833.
Huh,
Huh.
free 49ers.
Ah. Yeah, give him the old Owen Wilson. Ha!
Ah,
Wow! Wow!
wow.
Wow!
Wow.
Apparently, somebody made a soundboard of every Owen Wilson wow with like the different with like expressions of like what kind of wow it is, so you can
Oh my
have
god.
so you can give multiple different kinds of because like
Um,
there's more than just one. There it is
there's
a
more than one.
panoply. It's a cornucopia, if you
Oh
will,
yeah.
of
No,
wows.
uh man, humans are too ingenious for our to have access to technology.
There's a little strong bad song that goes people with too much time on their hands, and I think of that every time a little story like that comes up.
Two people with too much time on their hands, almost like two siblings. Welcome, friends and chosen family, to Brother Sibling Movie, a podcast where two siblings, that's us, talk about movies we loved from our childhood and some we may be discovering for the very first time.
I'm your brother, Evan Kerna.
And I'm your sibling, Mare Morgan. And this week's movie is Chocolat. They did not include the E on the sign, like on the poster, but I'm pretty sure that someone was fired over the little typo, so I think we can rest assured. But it's chocolate, or if you're a douchebag, chocolat. But it's chocolate.
Wait,
It's called chocolate.
wait,
The
for
movie is
real?
chocolate.
What is your evidence for this?
None. I'm making a funny joke and I got you to laugh, so that's it.
I was like, this movie did never had a misprinted poster that said chocolate on it. That would be
No,
crazy.
but how fucking funny would that be though? It's just a movie called Chocolate.
Chocolate. It should be chocolate with an exclamation mark on the end. Chocolate.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yes, Chocolat.
Yep.
2000
Chocolat.
Chocolat. Nominated for Best Picture, French Countryside, yada. But before we get into that, let me tell you a little bit about Season 3 of Brother Sibling Movie. Season 3's theme is revisionist fairy tales, featuring movies based on, inspired by, or updating the tropes of classic fairy tales from times past. Chocolat fits nicely into this paradigm, as it opens with a convenient once upon a time in a small French village.
It does. I definitely clocked that. And much like another fairy tale that starts in a small French village, there is a sexy beast in this film, and his name is Alfred Molina.
Is this the fairy tale that begins in your dreams at night, every night?
No, it's Beauty and the fucking Beast, man. Come on, get your shit together.
Wait, Alfred Molina is in
Oh my
Beauty and the
god, you're
Beast?
just missing all of my hilarious jokes today, Evan. You
I'm a
suck
bitch.
so hard.
I am a little bitch. I'm sorry.
You are being okay. So, like, okay, listener slash drunk Evan, let me explain that funny joke I just made.
Thank you. It's always
This
funnier
is
when you
a
have to
fairy
explain
tale.
it.
This movie is a fairy tale set in a small French village.
Yes.
I wanted to make a joke about Alfred Molina being a sexy beast.
Okay.
There is another famous fairy tale called Beauty and the Beast, which is also set in a small French village and has a sexy beast in it. I wanted to make the fucking literary comparison between the two of like French village with a sexy beast Is this sexy beast Alfred Molina? I think it is. Oh my god, Mayor, you're so funny. Oh my god, I pissed myself laughing. Ha ha ha. You're so smart and
All right.
literary and funny.
Let's take my reaction from the top. Oh my god! That was the funniest thing I've ever heard, Mayor. You're a comedic genius. Nay, the goat of comedy, dare I say. No, but he is a sexy beast, and you are right. And it was very clever, and you should be proud of yourself.
That's what everybody else did when they heard that joke. This sound, I'm going to play it again so you can remember what it sounds like when people
Okay.
laugh at my funny jokes.
Okay, hit me.
That's what should have happened. Let's keep going.
For all the listener knows, it is what happened because we have the power of editing on our side.
We have the power of evening on our side.
I'm there. Nothing motivates me more to get this podcast making money more than the idea of hiring an editor to do the part I don't want to do, which is edit the fucking podcast.
Yeah.
If you're a great podcast editor and like listening to two fucking idiots talk about movies and get off topic all the time, then we've got the low paying, possibly
Free.
not paying at all job for you.
Zero fungible assets will change hands.
No fungible tokens. No NFTs for you.
Tokens. No NFTs. All right. Do you want to summarize this bitch or should I?
I'll read the summary. Yeah, I feel
Go
like
for it.
you can read some of the reviews because they'll be fun.
Sure.
This is actually a very cognizant and salient summary from IMDb that I found from the user Huggo, who seems to do a lot of synopses.
I think we've used them before, haven't we?
I know. I wonder if it's like a computer program and we're just using AI synopses again. But based on how it's written, I'm going to guess not.
I think probably not. Let's go.
Here is a brief synopsis from user Huggo on IMDb of the 2000 film Chocolat, or Chocolate if you're nasty.
If you're a disgusting American.
If you're an idiot. It's early 1959. How did they figure that date out? In a provincial
because they
French...
literally say it in the front of the movie.
Oh, I totally missed that.
It was Lent in 1959.
Oh, I totally missed that. Great.
You know what? This is what happens when you don't listen to women.
I know. I heard female narrator and I was like, I'm out.
You're like, fuck this, you don't know anything. Dumb
In
bitch.
1 year, out the other.
Absolutely. All right, go.
It's early 1959 in a quiet village in provincial French town where residents know their place, and if they see something against the unspoken rules, they are to look the other way. The only exception to this rule is the mayor, Le Comte de Renard, who is seen as the town's moral authority, even more so than Père Henri, the new young Catholic priest, whose sermons are vetted by Le Comte. We're getting deep into the weeds and we haven't even met the main character yet.
I know. Go ahead.
Literally blowing into town is free spirit Vianne Rocher and her adolescent daughter Anouk Rocher, who move from place to place wherever the north wind takes them. Renting the long, empty space that used to house the patisserie. Why is it important that it's long?
I think it should be an adjective with a little hyphen. Long, empty, like the long, empty.
The long, empty space. That makes...
It's not a comma.
The long and empty space. Weird.
It's a real railroad patisserie.
That makes more sense. Thank you
Okay,
for
great.
clarifying. Um, the property, owned by elderly Armand Voisin, uh,
Voisin.
played by Judi Dench, Vian instead opens a chocolaterie, which none of the residents are aware of until it opens. Great sentence. While Vian, through the chocolaterie, is able to help certain residents in exposing some of the village's hidden ills, she nonetheless raises the ire of Lecomte in almost everything about her being. That she is promoting the indulgence of chocolate in the season of Lent, a period of abstinence and penitence. That she does not attend church, and that she has never been married, meaning that Anouk is illegitimate, a little bastard child.
The
Um,
cutest little bastard that's ever bastarded.
she is, and spoiler alert, turns out she's the narrator of this whole thing.
Oh
Um,
my god, don't blow the last thing of the film. Oh.
brr,
Eh.
Vion, I told you,
Spoilers.
I told people spoiler alert. Um,
Did you?
Vion, uh, like 2 seconds, like 1.5 seconds. Vion is viewed as an even less flattering is viewed in an even less flattering light when she takes up with Rue, the lead of a band of self confessed river rats floating into town. He, who, like Vian, is a nomadic free spirit. The questions become who, between Vian and Lecomte, will outlast the other or come to an understanding of the errors of their ways to be able to live in harmony with the other. That's more or less Chocolat.
Can I just say, Hugo, beautifully written. Evan, beautifully read.
Thank you. Yeah, I try my best. I am
A
an
real,
orator, if you
you
will.
really are a tour de force across the board. All right. So before we get into our thoughts and takeaways, or not that, that's the end. Before we get into talking our discussion of the movie, let's read some reviews from uh watchers, I guess,
Yes.
viewers.
Yes. LetterBoxd
Uh
watchers. Oh, and just so you know, you probably figured it out already, but I delineated into three categories this time:
oh.
popular reviews, 5-star reviews, and then half-star reviews. So
Oh, okay. I love this. I love this. Yeah,
just
because I
because
was reading
popular reviews come up first, and they are actually maybe the funniest, even though
I
they
was
might not be 5-star reviews.
yes, I agree. I agree. All right. Do you want to just switch off one on one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. So this is a review by either Rach or Lach, RACH. 4.5
Just
stars. The way this film is essentially chocolate versus Christianity is sending me. Nailed it. Yes.
you got it right, Rach. Ratch. Here is a 4-star review from Alex Kittle. Despite the heterosexy looking poster, this movie is mostly about women helping women and the stupidity of religious conservatism. It's got cute fashions, lovely locations, a range of real and fake French accents, and plentiful uses of the face
Mm.
when someone bites into something tasty. I dug it a lot.
Fuck yes, Alex. All right. This is
Uh,
a 4-star review by Maha underscore. Willy fucking Wonka might steal kids away from their homes, but Juliette Binoche fights religion and shags sexy Irish pirate.
hell yeah, Maha.
Willy Wonka could never. Willy
Willy
Wonka.
fucking Wonka. Yeah, you
Willy
never saw
fucking
Willy
Wonka.
Wonka shagging a sexy Irish pirate.
No, you did not.
And now we move into the 5-star review. So here are our letterbox users who, for whom ostensibly this is in their 100 greatest movies of all times, unless they are just liberally throwing out 5 stars. Um, watched by Sparky, 5 stars. My heart was so pleasantly warmed by this one. It's been my one of mom's favorites since I was little. That
Yep.
such as in Copy. I am so happy to have finally sat down to watch it with her after all this time. It's so cozy and kind. We made hot chocolate for the viewing too.
So cute.
That is really cute. I love stories that showcase multiple generations of women in such an honest way. Truly a classic from the no specific European
Oh
accent
my god.
era of filmmaking.
Yes, so real. It's so real.
And as always, I love you, Juliette Binoche.
Oh, yes. 5 stars. The no specific European accent era of filmmaking really fucking got me on that one.
That's
Uh,
why that's why I picked it out, because I was like, that's a
so good.
perfect encapsulation of this
Perfect.
era of Oscar bait movie making. It's like it's
Uh,
kind of French, but they just kind of like say go whoa or something every once in a while.
all right. Lily said, "Wow, OMG. What to say about this movie? It's so for me. For me is capitalized. Johnny Depp is Irish? Yes, please. Juliette Binoche looks so like Julia Roberts, it's uncanny. Is it though? No one can do a good French accent except young Anouk's, which is hilarious. I thought Luke was Toby Maguire for half the film.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Alfred Molina hates chocolate until he doesn't. Mysterious women supporting women, nomadic travelers. The music is jaunty. The village is gorgeous. I want to give this film a kiss on the forehead. and then there is a hyperlink in parentheses because the worst thing about this movie is the fucking wine scenes. And
This is true.
and that uh movie, or that hyperlink I should say, links to rottenapples.es, um and it's shows that the executive producers were Harvey Weinstein and Bob Weinstein. And then
Mhm.
it just says it's almost like sexual misconduct is legal, because in a way it almost is. The era will change that. What is era? And then it goes for the Equal Rights Amendment, and it's this whole thing um about getting that on there. And so that's exciting. Fuck the Weinsteins.
Good on you for good on you, user Lily, for
Lily.
throwing a hyperlink into your letterbox review and getting the good
We
word
gotta love
out.
it. We gotta
Uh
love it, because let me tell you, I did see as soon as I was like, "Oh fuck, this is a Miramax movie from 2000, son of a bitch."
yeah.
And I saw
You
the
have to
fucking Weinsteins come
you
up.
have you exactly. You have to just kind of like be accept that like many of the Oscar baity cutesy whatever, many of your favorite movies from the mid 90s to the, late aught 2000s are have convicted rapist felon Harvey Weinstein's name on them. That's
Yeah.
hey, that's the movie business.
Ooh, not good. All right.
Bad.
Next up. Next last 5-star review. Go ahead.
5 stars, rewatched by Hunter in August of 2022. Chocolat leaves my heart warm and full, much like hot chocolate filled to the brim. I know, it's too sugary and serves more as an adaptation than its own medium of film. Don't quite know what he means there.
I
But
am
I
not sure.
think but I think that might be why I love it so much. The type of story that leaves you refreshed. I adore that feeling, like I'm reading a beautiful tale with beautiful characters. I'm not saying I placed the book on hold at the library, but I definitely did.
Hell yeah, you did, Hunter.
So, Hunter, so you are saying
So
you
you
placed the
are
book
saying
on hold at the library. Oh,
no, but they're
thank you.
definitely not saying it though. But
They're definitely not. No.
they said I'm
Thank
not
you.
saying it.
Yeah. Thank you, Hunter, and all
Thank
of
you,
the
Hunter,
great reviewers.
and all
So
of the great reviewers. Now
let's get into
let's
the haters, the
let's
haterade.
get in to the haterade. Half-star reviews. This was watched by Azra with the little heart hand emoji, like the 2 hearts going together, that's what their username is.
Yeah.
This is from October
Ma-
2023. Hang on.
Mayor's already having a hard time. Read the first first 3 words, and we're like, "Oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through this."
Okay, I'm gonna try really hard. Bisexual French Mexican migrants to a small
Migrates.
town.
Oh,
Migrate.
bisexual French Mexican migrates to.
Yes, bisexual French Mexican migrates to a small town, feeding them chocolate that creates sex potions, female independence, and diabetes! Three exclamation points. And she's unmarried with a child! Two exclamation points. And sleeps with a sexy man with a half passable Irish accent! Three exclamation. She's not Mexican, and I don't know why
No,
they say she's bisexual.
I know. I don't know either.
She's
That could seriously be a 5-star review as well.
I was gonna say, I was like, first of all, none of the things that you just said would make me hate this movie. I'm like, I would love to watch a bisexual French Mexican migrant like woman go to a small town who has a kid. Like that's awesome. It sounds like a great fucking movie. I don't know why you
Exactly.
think she's Mexican. I don't know why you think she's bisexual. But like fuck diabetes. Like diabetes does suck. Like that's not good.
Okay, I kind of want to switch up the order. Could
Oh,
you? I'd like
yeah.
to read the next one after this. Can you read "Watched by Lila" or Lila? Lila?
Yes. So this one from Lila. Why was Alfred Molina practically orgasming over chocolate? Because, bitch, it's Lent and he has not eaten in a month. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and his wife has been out of the country and probably hates him, and he doesn't seem like he's you know had sex in a long time either.
I
So
would,
I think chocolate would do a lot to you if
I
those things
think
were
if,
all true.
yeah, I think if your wife is like visiting Venice for the past 3 years,
Right.
um,
She
it,
got an Italian villa and is meeting the locals, if you know what I'm saying.
she's getting railed by Giovanni. Okay. Like, that's what's happening.
Oh God.
All right.
Right. Okay, 2 more. Uh, Half star watched by Cub Avenger. A list of films released in 2000 which did not receive a Best Picture nomination, while this Miramax in peak Oscar bait mode art house by numbers movie designed to appeal to upper middle class white people to make them feel like they're artsy and adventurous in order to ensure the movie plays for months at the local landmark theater managed to get 5. Here is the list of movies that were not uh,
Nominated for Best Picture.
nominated for Best Picture in 2000, while
Right.
Chocolat was. Almost Famous, Before Night Falls, Dancer in the Dark, Requiem for a Dream, You Can Count on Me, High Fidelity, Amy and Jaguar, The House of Mirth. I'm convinced Johnny Depp was only in this to fulfill some kind of Miramax Oscar bingo card.
I mean, personally, I think High Fidelity and Almost Famous might be two of my favorite movies that have ever been made. So I do agree that it is insane that they were not nominated, but also I
It's
really love
true.
Chocolat as well. So, it's fine.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Uh
I would love to do an episode about High Fidelity because by today's standards, it is definitely super problematic, but I still love it as a movie.
it's
It's only problematic because the main character is a
a
dude being
fucked
a
up man
dude.
baby.
Yes.
It's also the film that like brought Jack Black to the world as a movie
Yes,
star.
totally. Which
So like
worth it.
worth it. He is peak in that film. Anyway, last
Apparently, he
review.
didn't want to do it because he was worried that because he was a musician, he would be getting associated with like being a critic of things when he himself is not that way. He himself is a lover of all music and loves all types of music. But of
Really?
course, but of course, he was like, "What am I, a fucking idiot? Like, this script is incredible. Like, this is an incredible
Yeah.
role. Like, I'm not going to say no to it." And thank God that he did, because it gave us
Oh,
Jack Black.
he went on to become a Kung Fu Panda. So this last half-star review by A, just the letter A, is
This
hilarious.
half-star review brought to you by the letter A.
The letter A. Hilarious. The secret ingredient that's in the chocolate is Viagra. Ow, ow! Again, why is that a half
Wow.
star? Why
I
is
don't
that a
know.
half star?
Hmm.
I don't get it. I'm like, that sounds fun.
I would love it if there was just one or two extra scenes where where it's revealed that Juliette Binoche is a time traveler and has gone into the future and gotten stolen Viagra pills from a pharmaceutical company and is just like crunching them into all of the chocolate that she makes for the town. It's like,
I
these
mean,
people are repressed. They need a little help.
I would say though that the body can be willing, but the mind cannot be. And what she's doing is giving Viagra of the mind. She's
She is
awakening
giving Viagra of the mind.
she
Yes,
is awakening people's spirits and passions, not
it's
just
true.
like getting from
It's
6
true.
to midnight.
We'll be right back with more Brother Sibling Movie. This week's podcast is brought to you by the letter B. That's right, letters aren't just sponsoring children's programs anymore. The alphabet is bigger, badder, and beefier than it's ever been before, bursting with benefits and a beautiful bushel full of sounds. The alphabet has all the baddies you can crave. Bop on over to your local business district and check out a bookstore. It's bonkers how many brilliant bets you'll find. Letter B.
Letter B.
Take
Also,
it away.
I like that the alphabet is rebranding and calling themselves the Bet. I feel like that's
Hmm.
very Gen Z. It's
Yeah.
very it's very hip and young. It's really like inviting the kids in to the discourse. So, thanks
Yeah.
thanks for sponsoring this. Thanks for being our sponsor and especially to the letter B for
You know
sponsoring our
what?
show this week.
I can think of no better brag than to say that that the bet is better than all the other baddies in the Barn.
Baboon.
Lost it at the end there, but pretty
There
solid
it
otherwise.
is. Sometimes you trip at the finish line, but it doesn't mean you didn't run the majority of the race.
If you trip right at the end, it actually helps you at the photo
Get
finish, right?
over.
Woo! Bing! All that matters is the photo, you know? It's like my nose made it further than the rest of my body,
Wait,
so hooray.
is there a rule in racing where your feet have to cross the finish line? Because if not, wouldn't you just like collapse at the end and you're like,
You
look,
would
my
just like
fucking
launch
pants.
yourself like Superman
Yeah,
across the finish
yeah,
line and then wreck your body because it's like my whole
yeah,
life was leading up to this moment. Why do I have to
yeah.
protect myself anymore?
Yeah, but at least then you don't have to fucking run anymore. Like, that'd be great.
That's a good point. We should look this up and discover what the official Olympic rules are as far as photo finishes and feet crossing finish lines
I
for
know. But until then,
foot races. Now I'm on F's.
oh, now you're on Fs. All right. Well, thanks, Alphabet slash Bet, for
Thank you,
sponsoring us this
Alphabet.
week.
We appreciate you. And we're back. And now we enter the freewheelin portion of our podcast where
Which
we
thank
talk about whatever we want to talk about when it comes to this movie.
thank God. So far, we've been really, I think, a little too rigid and focused.
We've been way too on topic, if you ask me.
I agree. Fuck me. God damn. All right. Um,
Uh, Tell me about your earliest memories of Chocolat, Mare. When did you remember your earliest connection to
I
this movie being?
We watched it, I feel like, a lot when like, right when it came out, like, in 2000. I was 10. Um,
It was that perfect kind of movie that was very what's the word I'm looking for? Like feel good, but in like a PG-13 way about
yeah.
interesting kind of like witchy, somewhat supernatural things that I think really fit within our kind of ethos, but also wasn't too uh, freaky to like
No, it's
rock the
not
boat.
no, it's not, like, overtly sexy, it's not overtly violent, it's not overtly mean, like, it's a
Yeah.
movie. This is the kind of movie that our mom especially, but, like, our parents would let us watch, and
Hmm.
that was, like, not a kids movie by any means, but was also, like, not adult. Like, it wasn't an
It
adult
has
film.
it has like a rebellious spark to it about how like it's bad to be part of like a rigid society, but it's also not like too um uh grotesque or something. I don't know the
No,
other
and
word I'm looking for.
I think it makes sense that this is a
It's
story that
cute.
it's very cute, and
It
it makes
is.
sense that this is a story that's based on a book.
Yeah.
Because I was like, "Oh, this I bet would be a really, like, comfy, cozy book to read too, of where, like, there is conflict, but it's not, like, horrendous, and it's
Hmm.
just, like, it's sweet, it's really nice. I loved it as a kid. Our mom was, like, obsessed with the soundtrack. Is
Yes. I think a lot of people were. I mean,
I To be fair, that
I
okay,
have yeah. I actually yeah, I've got some things to say about that
okay,
eventually.
great, great. Um, but yeah, that was and I've seen it many times. It's definitely a comfort watch movie. It's just really
Yeah.
nice, and I especially it was, like, the perfect today was also the perfect day for me to do a rewatch because it was, like, kind of rainy and a little cold, and I, like, snuggled
Yeah,
up in
it's
bed
like
and
it's like
watched
it's
it was,
like it's
like
like fall time at the moment. Yeah,
yes, yes, it's fall time right now, even
at
though this movie
at
takes
time of
place in the kind of wintry, late winter months and stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, what about you? What do you remember about it?
I mean, I guess pretty like same. Like yeah, when it came out in 2000, I would have been 13. We were yeah. I feel like it was one of those movies that was kind of like at the time getting it was clearly like there was a lot of buzz around it. I mean, it got nominated for Best Picture, and a lot of that has to do with loudmouth Harvey Weinstein, like positioning himself politically to get the movies that he was producing, in the Oscar baity category. But I didn't know that when I was 13. It was just kind of like a popular movie that
Yeah,
was that it it it's the kind of movie that plays perfectly well in a place like Sonoma County.
it's
Like
exactly what I was thinking. It's perfect for
It's
Sonoma
about
County.
like it's about this like perfect like kind of like quaint European town that has like a problem with the patriarchy basically or whatever. But it's also but like the people who are solving that problem are like um women, and they do it like in a very and they solve their problems in a very feminine kind of way. And it's also very like look at how uh cool and artsy these like cool white people are or whatever, and
Yes,
whatever, not to
it's
downplay the movie, I'm making fun, but
it is a
yeah
perfect Sonoma County
it's
mom movie.
yeah it's rebellious but not in an overly uh like confrontational way.
Right, like, Vienna's not going in and, like, burning down the church, you know? Like,
She- she-
she's like, I wear
she's
red high
taking a stick
heels
of
and I make
dynamite.
chocolate." Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to like the she's That's actually a part I want to talk with you about.
Yeah.
Is your take on the fashion because
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I have a lot of thoughts on
yes,
it.
because I think that's a big part too of a what makes it play to Sonoma County specifically, which I find interesting, but also just be what made it kind of like a phenomenon at the time that it came out because there was a lot of people trying to mimic that sort of style of the I don't know what you would call it, like liberated housewife look of like late 50s, early 60s, like still very cute with like, I don't know. Anyway, we can talk about it now or later, but like I find that
Yeah.
interesting because I
Well,
think it's a big part of what makes the movie, what sold it to the masses.
yeah. Well, and I'll kind of start off. Maybe we'll just get into my thoughts about
Yeah,
the
let's do it.
overarching thing, right? So,
Yeah.
um, the the director of this film is a Swedish filmmaker whose
Yes.
name I don't know, but
Lasse
Evan does.
Holstrom, I believe.
Lars Holstrom.
Or is it? Yeah,
Um,
Hallstrom. Lasse Hallstrom. I don't know if I'm
yes,
pronouncing that right. It might be Lassie, but it's Lasse.
I don't think it is. I think it's probably Lass or Lassa.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the director of this film is Swedish.
Yeah.
Um, it has overarchingly a non-American cast. I think that Johnny Depp might be the only American. Well, Carrie Ann Moss is
Yeah.
American, but it is a very, I would say, international cast, which
Hmm.
I think is plays into part of the feeling of it
Hmm.
of like I, I don't know, it feels like again, I think there's a coziness to non-American film sets,
Totally.
um, that is very real.
Yeah.
And France in this time in the 1950s and 60s, right? They're only 15 or so years, 14, 15 years out from the end of World War II. And for a lot of people, a lot of
Kind of a
towns.
long time. I mean, we're whatever 25 years out from we're about 15 years plus some from like the financial crisis of 2008, which feels like a
Right.
long ass time ago.
It feels like a long ass time ago, but I think just the ethos of that, of like post war in
Hmm.
Europe,
Yeah.
post World War II in Europe was a very different time than post war in America. In America, we have this idea of like, oh, the 50s and 60s were this like economic boom time and like it was really crazy and going big. But Europe was very much not that way.
Yeah.
A lot of Europe was, had been bombed for 5 fucking years and had most of their young population uh, die
Decimated.
fighting
Yeah.
the war.
Yeah.
And so,
And Europe in general is just a very much more not conservative but traditional. Like there is
yeah,
history in Europe. I had a European roommate for many years who
Cristiano.
Cristiano who loved who sung the praises of America for exactly that reason. He's like, in Italy we like that people worship the Colosseum and all these like things, and it's just like it's so steeped in tradition, which has its charms, but ultimately it is there's an ethos of like, don't change anything, don't buck
Right,
tradition, don't be new, don't be different, don't be radical, don't do anything that is
right.
whatever. And so yes, it makes sense that in those years after World War II, things in Europe were slower to develop
Much,
and change
much
than they
slower to
did
come
in
back.
America. Hmm.
Much slower to come back. But along with that, um, just on the like fashion side of it,
Oh yeah.
what's cool about this movie is it's set in 1959, but for the most part, a lot of the people, the background actors and the older actors, they're wearing styles of clothes from like the 20s and the 30s from when like they would have been younger.
I was gonna
Styles of
say that
clothes.
was interesting because again, not being a diligent watcher listener of the opening of the movie and being like, "What time is this exactly?" I was looking at it and being kind of like, I mean, it's a little, like obviously it's very specifically about the time because people in 1959 post-war Europe wouldn't have
Yeah.
had a lot of fashions or whatever. But yeah, interesting you point that out because I was getting the feeling just based off of everything that the movie was giving me visually, besides Juliette Binoche's character, that it was much more of kind of like a 30s,
And
40s
that
kind of vibe or whatever.
Yeah, and so a lot of the characters do wear older clothes, which makes sense, right? Because they're pre predominantly
Trying to keep
older
their shit
people
together.
and
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, they're older people and all of this stuff, but I think what else is interesting is that the way that the costumer, like, made the sort of the cinematography, the production design, the costume design, the whole palette of the film is very neutral. Like everybody is
Right.
wearing black and neutral clothes and earth tone
Ah,
colors, but
yes.
then
Which is no doubt
and that
intentional because you want
because then
Juliette Binoche's stuff. Yeah. Hmm.
Vianne comes in and she's wearing, like 50s looking clothes, but they're very colorful. She has a lot of um, beautiful fabrics and really cool pieces that are not strictly European. She's wearing some stuff that is like, she has like beautiful brocade stuff and she has like South American, like embroidered items and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
she has a very different look, and she is kind of coming in as this, like, modern woman,
Yeah.
wearing things that are much more contemporary and much more colorful, and also not what the other women her age are wearing, and
Right.
not,
Hmm.
kind of what the expected thing is, um, and it's a really cool visual contrast that, like, very quickly sets them apart, and also the, like, red
Totally.
capes that she and
Yeah.
her daughter wear are very like, they're anachronistic a bit. I'm like, not a lot of people were bopping around in capes in the 50s, I don't think, but,
Yeah,
um,
totally. Yeah,
they're
that
very
gives it, that is a specific choice to make it feel very much like a fairy tale kind of situation.
exactly.
Little
Yeah,
Red
but even
Riding
then
Hood
with
kind of ideas or whatever.
yeah, but then even within that, the colors and all of that stuff over the course of the film become more vibrant and more alive. But for most of the film, Vienne and Vienne's shop are these like centers of vibrancy
Hmm.
visually on the film, which
Yeah.
is really cool. And
Yeah, it is interesting.
also,
The costumes get more like they
yeah, they get
develop a warmer color palette as the movie goes on.
yes, they do. And I also just love that Vienne wears colorful heels.
Oh,
Um,
uh-huh.
It's this, like, fashion historians correct me, but there's something to, like, there's even a moment where Anouk says, like, "Why can't you wear black shoes like the other mothers?" Because that's just,
She
like,
does
the
say
standard,
that.
right?
Hmm.
It's, like, the standard thing, right? Like, "You're a mom, you wear, like, sensible black shoes and whatever,"
Right.
and Vianne is
Yeah,
like,
not like
"I'm
turquoise or whatever.
not turquoise or pink or red or whatever the fuck."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, immediately that she is a different flavor that this town has not had before, just based on her clothes, just based on the way that she shows up.
Yeah.
Um, and also, it doesn't hurt that Juliette Binoche is
Her
drop dead gorgeous.
You can tell that her figure is made for clothes of that era.
Yes. And this is another thing that I'm always going to call out when I see it. I'm always gonna love it. 1950s clothes look like 1950s clothes if you wear 1950s undergarments. They don't
Huh.
look the same.
Interesting.
Like,
Explain a little bit.
okay, so you have been around uh you have probably been privileged enough to see a brassiere in your life on a person.
I've heard of them.
You've heard of them. So like bras are curvy now.
Right.
Like they're a natural shape. The shape of a breastises
Oh,
is
but it
curvy.
did not always used to be that way.
No, so in the 50s came the
Very
advent
like
of
Betty Page, like.
like the bullet bra is what it was
Mhm.
called, and it was actually the history of undergarments is really fascinating. I'm not going to get into it now,
Ooh,
but
we
I
should
will
write a
say
book. We should do a special episode.
we'll do a special episode where we talk about underwear.
Underwear. Trust us, it'll be good.
Trust us, it's cool. So like in the 50s, a lot of women wore girdles or what we would think of as waist trainers that were these to get that iconic new look, like Christian Dior new look that was very like hourglass.
Mhm.
You achieve that by A, not eating, and B, wearing a really tight girdle that would
Uh-huh.
suck your waist in.
Mhm.
And also the way that bras were made, because they weren't made out of stretch fabric up until I think the 60s is when they started being made out of more like elasticy kind of stuff. But in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, whatever, they were non-stretch and
Mhm.
were patterned the way that the actual cup was
Ah.
patterned
Mhm.
would create this kind of a angle shape.
V-shaped. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it would create this V shape and it
Yeah.
creates this point
Yeah. It
on
made
your
it it
bust
it
line.
made it it made a shelf on your chest.
Yes. Because, much like a liquid, titties kind of go into whatever shape you put them in. They're kind of they don't they don't, they just go wherever the wind takes them, as it were. But part of the reason that the costumes look so good and they look so believable is because of that, is because like the costume designers had her actually in like that kind of undergarments that like gave her the specific shape and like all of the things. So it just looks great. I'm not a proponent of bullet bras or anything. I'm just saying as a fashion thing, it is interesting and cool when you see that because it looks anachronistic if you
Mhm.
don't do that.
Right. If you
I
don't put those
personally.
proper undergarments on, the clothes don't look right. They don't
Yeah, because
fall in the
that's what the
same way that is the iconic 50s look.
well, and even if you go into your local vintage clothing store, and you are a person with breasts, and you put on a dress from the 50s, oftentimes, even if everything fits, the bust darts are
Mhm.
way higher than where they would be
Oh.
because they were not going to a natural bust line point.
Mm.
They were going to this different shape, and so you'll kind of be like, "But there's like a bust dart like up here, and my boobs are down here." So it's just interesting. I just think it's fun the way that fashion changes for to accommodate different shapes
Totally.
that are fashionable at the time. Um,
Totally.
but
Um,
yeah, Juliette
let's
Binoche is
just
fucking gorgeous.
yeah, she is great looking and a wonderful actress as well. Let's quickly call out the costume designer since we spent so much time talking
Yes,
on it.
please.
Renee Ehrlich Kalfus. So great job,
Renee
Renee.
Erlich Kalfus, you crushed. I
You
loved it.
crushed.
It was great. You had the right heel size and shape was perfect on all of Juliette Binoche's. I love the old ladies who are wearing like 1930s hats and like
Yeah.
Armand wears a hat that's like from the turn of the 20th century that's like a 1910s hat. It's great. I love it.
Ah,
I love all the touches. It's
conservative,
beautiful.
yeah. Excellent.
Beautiful, beautiful. The other thing that I wanna talk about, and I'd
Yes.
love to hear your thoughts on this, the one of the central themes of this movie that I think is or timing pieces, I don't know, whatever you wanna call it, is the
Mhm.
contrast between it takes place during Lent, the season of
Mhm.
Lent, and kind of ends around Easter. Uh, we're not Catholic. We were not raised Catholic or Christian.
Whatever
Um,
the opposite of Catholic is, that's what we were. Satanic?
yeah,
Maybe not that
um,
opposite, but
I
pretty
don't think
close.
that opposite. I've often told people that the way that I view my relationship to astrology is very similar to how a lot of people that were raised in a really intense religious faith view their religion that they grew up with, where I'm like, yeah, it informed a lot of my beliefs. I think it's really interesting. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I don't necessarily believe in everything, and I don't necessarily think it should rule my life and my decisions, but it's fun, it's interesting, it's something I know a lot about, except I'm talking about astrology and not like catechism. When
This
I
sounds
go
like
off on that.
this sounds like how I feel about Star Wars. It's like I used to be a diehard believer, and now I've fallen out of grace with
And then
the
it hurt
practice.
me.
But and
And
then
then
it
it
hurt, and then it hurt me. That's
and then
right.
it hurt me
And
and
then I
broke my faith.
and then I realized that there's a lot of beautiful things in the original text, but the people who came later and interpreted it really fucked a lot of things up.
Yeah.
And now I kind of like go back to it just to see like what the flavor of the month is, and to kind of like know what the people are talking
Yeah, it's just
about.
you wanna keep current with it.
Right. Yeah. I just want to know.
Uh,
But yeah, no, that is really interesting part about the movie, talking about it's I mean that's at the center of one of the main themes that is kind of at the center of the movie. I suppose you could call it the central theme of the movie, is
yeah.
this question of um, in the movie it's about like religious dogma versus sort of like a freewheeling spirit, independent and sensuousness,
I think
indulging in
it's
that, and it's couched in religion versus, it's really about like tradition or conservatism or repression, coming into contact with uh, openness and sensuality and I don't know, gratification or something like that.
yeah, it's I I have a very hard, time with, uh, a lot of the, like, restrictive aspects of religion. Um,
Right.
More than anything, I
You?
think
No, I
I know, could you
never
believe
would
it?
believe it. Yeah.
I think more than anything and I've
Meredith
thought
used
about this.
to Meredith used to yell as a young child that their shoes were too tight, and this was any time that they put on shoes.
I'm still
Too
fucking hammering
tight,
shoes.
too tight was a common refrain many
I
times.
used to
Like
stamp my
their
feet.
sandals.
I used to stamp my feet and have a fit,
Hmm.
um, anytime I would be forced to wear shoes because it was, like,
You
cold or whatever.
you
Um,
you were a witch before you knew you were a witch.
I I really was. I was just not down for the, lie of of footwear. But
Footwear. Bigfoot wants to pin you in.
exactly. It's called the foot locker. You lock in to those shoes, and once you get in that fucking mindset, you'll never be free.
That's right.
That's right.
More like foot
My
prison. Am I right?
They're kind of like foot prisons. So one of the things that I haven't we were not raised, like I said, in any particular religion, but nor were we like banned from it. We weren't also raised by like militant atheists or anything. It was like not part of our upbringing. And
Yeah.
at various points in my life, I've been like, I don't know, maybe I need in religion or something. And then
Mhm.
you start looking at these religions, and I'm like, oh, these are two things that I don't do well with, which is like large groups of people and rules I have to follow. Those
You're
are
like, wait
very
a minute.
hard things for me.
This sounds like all the things I hate.
This sounds like all the things I fucking hate,
Wait
actually.
a minute.
Um,
Yeah,
and
maybe
I
we should talk.
understand it.
Yeah,
Well, I understand it. I understand, like, the whole thing of
there's
religion and having
there's
faith in
comfort.
something, and
Yeah,
there's
there's comfort
comfort
in
in community,
tradition. Yeah.
and there's comfort in community and belief and faith, and all of those things are really, really beautiful. And also, again, there's so many rules that you have to follow, and I can't remember them most of the time. Um,
Mhm.
but the concept of Lent in Catholicism is really interesting, right? Of where you have like, I don't even know what the order of operations is. It's like there's Ash Wednesday and Palm Sunday, and then Lent starts, and then you have Easter? Fat Tuesday's in there somewhere.
Don't ask me. I know even less than this. I'm just
There
like,
there's
I don't know.
some there's something about it, but right, like the idea that of Lent, that for 40 days you give something up.
Fun aside, in college, there was a woman on the floor of my dorm room who had done the,
Oh yeah, Ash
kind of
Wednesday,
gives
you
a
get the cross. Yeah.
forehead. I didn't know what it was, so I said, "What's that shit on your forehead?" And she was like, it was an almost flirtatious reaction, like interaction before that moment. And then I said that, I was like, "What's that shit on your forehead?" Thinking I was being funny. And she was like, "It's Ash Wednesday." And I was like, "Ugh." All of the color drained out of my face. I was like,
Oh my god. I'm like,
"Oh,
I'm getting 20
I'm
years
so
later,
sorry."
I'm getting like retroactively embarrassed for you. I can like feel myself flushing.
Oh
I'm
my
so embarrassed
god.
for you.
Oh my god.
Oh,
But thinking back on it, it was quite funny.
I mean, it's kind of funny.
To a
Not
horrible to a horrible unreligious
to a
person like
horrible
me, it
degree.
was very
Because
funny.
again, like,
Sorry.
you know, but this idea of kind of the whole thing with the movie, right, is that it takes place during Lent, which is this time that you are supposed to be, giving something up for Lent, giving up like earthly trappings or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Mhm.
like,
And there's
and
nothing more
then he is
sensuously
risen.
than there's nothing more sensually out of that world than just the photography of chocolate churning, hot
Dude.
chocolate churning in a bowl.
Chocolate churning.
Mm.
Um, it's
Mm-mm.
just, and it's so funny. Alfred Molina also does such a great job of just being an absolute repressed weirdo. Like, he just like smells jam and it looks like he's about to cum his pants. I'm like,
Yeah.
sir, it's jam.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a hot 22-year-old like oiled up and spreading her ass. Like, it's jam.
I know. He does a great job in that
He's
respect.
amazing.
I wonder if you might go on a 5 to 10 minute rant about what makes Alfred Molina so great in this movie, because I feel like you have
Oh my
thoughts.
god, I do. First of all, Alfred Molina is a great actor. Part of the reason that he was
In
cast
case
in
you
this.
don't know, he's the guy who who refuses to throw Indy the whip in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I did not know
He
for many years.
he is. He
Mhm.
is. Throw me the whip. Throw me the idol. Throw me the whip. Throw me the idol. That's Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
Um,
Adios, senor.
he's it's great because he's intensely British, and I don't
Yeah.
know if I've, like, ever seen him play a British person. I'm
Nope.
sure he
Nope.
has.
Again, this is the era of nondescript European accent of
Yes,
cinema.
very much so, but he is the perfect uptight, like, fuddy-duddy, for lack of a better word. Um,
I do
his
love a fuddy duddy.
I mean, I think he's very fun because I'm like, "Just, like, kiss Carrie Ann Moss. It's fine. She's way too hot for you. Like, come on."
She is.
She is, she's so much too hot for him.
You could do so
Um,
much better, Carrie Ann.
it's true, but he plays the perfect, like, repressed, traditional, like, you're trying so hard to be this, like, most, like, godly, virtuous, blah, blah, blah man
Yeah.
that just,
Hmm.
like, you really are not having any fun at all, and you're
Yeah.
kind of making everybody else's life a nightmare because of that, because, like, you can't loosen up and, like, you're the little tyrant of your town.
Yeah.
Um, and he also has this, like, cute little mustache. That's
Yeah,
so
his little
cute.
mustache.
He has
That's
this cute little
adorable.
mustache. And I just love Alfred Molina. The reason that he was cast in this film was because of his performance in Boogie Nights.
Oh my
Let me
god.
let
I mean,
that sink in.
he's
Let me let
great
that
in
sink
Boogie
in.
Nights. Yeah.
He plays an unhinged fucking lunatic in Boogie Nights.
Yeah, a coke fiend with a
Uh,
he's a drug addict with a gun problem. That's how I would describe him in Boogie
he
Nights.
that is the best. He is not a he
Gun
does not
owner
have a
with a
drug
drug
problem.
problem? Right,
No,
no.
he is a drug addict with a gun problem. Like, it is a lot.
It's a
He's
lot. It's so great.
I think his name Eddie Nash, or is he based on Eddie Nash?
I don't remember.
He's he's based that character in Boogie Nights, I think, is based on this guy that was in that scene in Hollywood at the time, whose name was Eddie Nash, who was,
Mhm.
again, a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
But Alfred Molina plays him, and then, uh, Lasse Holmstrom
Was
Holmstrom
like, this
was
guy needs to
like,
play an uptight religious person.
which he does a great job at, because you're like, "You suck, but you could also not suck." Like,
Yeah.
there's the potential there, but you're not really giving us any reason to like you at all. Um, and I
Yeah.
just, uh, I'll talk more about it in my
Well,
final thoughts and takeaways,
yeah.
but
No, yeah,
Alfred Molina is a wonderful actor, and I really everybody in this film is a tremendous actor. I mean, Dame Judi Dench is in this,
oh,
Carrie
yes,
Ann Moss,
that's true.
Juliette Binoche, Lena Olin,
Mhm.
fucking, oh my god, what's her name? She's a famous French actress. She played the old woman, the widow, fuck, I can't remember her
Oh,
name.
yeah.
Leslie Caron, she was her breakout role that she came into cinema with was An American in Paris with Cary Grant. That was her.
So she
Like,
was the Parisian, one would
the
assume, that he meets.
Parisian. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, it's an incredible cast. It's just an incredible cast, but
Yeah, they all do a great job. And we didn't even mention Johnny Depp, who became one of the like iconic things of this movie when it came out. But yeah, going off of your thoughts, if you feel like you've said your piece about Alfred Molina, I'm kind of interested to dig in a bit about the messaging of the movie, and specifically about how Alfred Molina's character Lecomte is really this representation of repression in this world, and how um, the the movie, to me, like, really at the end of the day, it's just kind of like a cute movie about
yeah.
um, people coming to town and people kind of and like a woman helping a free spirited person, a free spirited woman helping these repressed town folks to open up and become
Yeah.
less dogmatic and more uh, not sensuous but more open minded, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I and it does, and the movie itself does that in a very kind of like PG-13 kind of
Yeah.
way. But I do think that um, underlying it all, it is interesting. That like the interesting thing about this movie is that sort of connection between repression and what it takes to get people to get out of their rigid way of thinking and to because there's a lot because what the movie dramatizes is that there is always this kind of like societal pushback to that, especially from the powers that be. And Lecomte is like Alfred Molina's character is really a representation of that. The powers that be that refuse to give up power when there is this kind of more, you could argue, egalitarian or feminine or whatever kind of energy that enters the space. They um to me it's interesting, especially given the times that we live in, because in the 90s and the 2000s this was kind of a very common like story to
Yes.
tell. It
Yes.
was so much more common to understand that the past was all about this rigidity and this whatever, but our characters are all about breaking that tradition and opening themselves up to the arts the and whatever chocolate, just like
Yeah.
sensuous things or things that are outside of the norm of dogmatic thought structures. Um, and it's interesting considering that these days, because I feel like there has become a much more, even in popular entertainment, even though Hollywood is still known for being the bastion of liberal people, it's still like there has been a shift in the current pop culture away from this idea that the, the antidote to repression, the antidote to the stifling aspects of tradition are to embrace what is uncommon. They even have that really like a really interesting piece of the movie that I kind of forgot about that surprised me a little was the fact that the Carrie Ann Moss's has a child. Her husband has
Yeah.
died,
Luke.
and Luke
He's
and
a
Luke is
sweet
an
boy.
artist. He likes to draw, and Judy Dench, Madame Dame Judy Dench, is
Armand.
Carrie Ann Moss's mother, and they are
Yeah.
estranged from one another. So Luke and Armand do not interact or talk with each other. But Luke, the little boy, is likes to sketch and draw, but he draws like dead things. He
And
like
he
finds
draws
dead things to on the
he
street.
draws shit that's in like an Egon Schiele, Max Ernst, German expressionist sort of vibe that's
Hmm.
like beautiful and grotesque and is sort of is he's he's like likes the gory stuff. Like if he were
Right.
alive today, he'd be the person whose mom has like a love, faith, and family like art wall art, but he is
Yeah.
like watching Friday the 13th. Like
Yeah.
that's the vibe. I
Totally.
love
Yeah.
him. But he's just like a sweet kid and just like likes weird shit and like life is not always great and nice. So that's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, and I find I don't know. I just think it's really interesting that like in 2000, like this was so much more of a common thing that people were like a story that people felt comfortable making and gravitated toward and would even get like um again, a lot of it has to do with like the insane psychotic campaigning of Harvey Weinstein to get his movies to be in Best Picture categories. But it was the kind of thing that was in the cultural zeitgeist, this kind of like cleaned up version, but like still a kind of a rebellious nature of like bucking tradition and saying like this is what's important to us. It's important to us to be open minded. It's important to us to be interested in outsiders. It's important to us to say no to dogmatic ways of thinking. And uh, and at the time, I think because of the sort of Oscar buzz that it got, and because it's really more of a cute movie than it is like a great movie, it got derided for that reason. It's like, how dare this
Yeah.
film get elevated to this stature? But compared to the kinds of things that we see now coming out, it's, I don't know, it's just sort of interesting that that was once upon a time, even just only 25 years ago, was a much more common thread of narrative that we wanted to
Yeah.
give to people, so,
Yeah.
and
And
the
I
fact that it's a very like matriarchal, like it's quietly like fuck the patriarchy kind of movie, because it's all about like, don't let the men who are beating you run the town, like, he's the bad guy as he should
okay,
be.
so this is an interesting thing as well that I really like about this film is that the the town, right, is so determined to stay the way that they are that when someone comes in who is different but is kind and compassionate and
Hmm.
genuine and caring,
Yeah.
they are not able to see that. They're only able to see the difference. And she, like, Vienne as a character is not coming in with judgment, and she's
Hmm.
not coming in with anything other than allowing people like Josephine, who's played by Lena Olin, who's,
Oh yeah.
kind of the
The wife
town.
of actor Alex Stormare, uh
No, her husband
Peter
is
Stormare,
oh yes, the in the film, the actor, yes, Peter
the actor.
Stormare.
Yes, sorry.
Um, but Serge. Um,
Hmm.
but Josephine is this abused and forgotten woman, and everybody thinks she's kind of crazy, but it's just that
She's so hot.
she's hot. Oh my god. She's just being but like
I was like,
she's
that
just
one.
fair. Um, but she's just like not listened to and
Yeah.
is not cared for. And Vienne
It's
cares
so
for her
interesting too that
and listens to
the
her.
beginning the beginning of their relationship starts with her like like uh shoplifting
Feeling.
things from her,
Yeah,
like that's
but
the only outlet of
like
of
rebellion.
rebellion that she has, and she
And it
feels a
and
kind of safety in doing it in the chocolaterie. But obviously, for the first half of the movie, Bien is a very kind of like magical sort of figure. I would argue that, yes, I'll give this to the audience now and not just in my final thoughts, but like Vienne, Chocolat is Vienne is a witch, but
absolutely.
this is a fairy tale told from the witch's perspective, and like why the witch
Absolutely.
does what she does.
Yes, because she is coming in with, again, that like kindness and acceptance and that like little bit of magic, and she is different.
Hmm.
But it's not that the difference is a bad thing. It's that no one is able to see the good that she's doing because of the difference. And I think
Hmm.
the very end, Père Henri, the the priest,
Yeah.
gives this great, he's kind of been held captive by the Comte, and the Comte is trying to basically kind of legislate from the pulpit,
Hmm.
sort of thing. But at the end, Père Henri, who's I think genuinely a good dude and is just sort of young and a little inexperienced,
He
essentially is
loves
like,
rock and roll music, so he must be cool.
he must be cool. Um, he basically says, the Jesus loved people and Jesus accepted people. And
Right.
what we should be focusing on if we're Christians and if we're elevating, it's Easter and Christ is risen, but like who was he as a man? Who was he as a person? And he was someone
Yeah.
who
In a physical
loved
body, not just the Son
in
of
a
God, but who was he as a
right.
person in this
Who was
life?
exactly. And I think that is the piece that to me that underlying message of judge people by the content of their character kind of thing, right? Of Vienne is a good person through and through. She is loving and she is kind and she is accepting and she just isn't telling people what to do. She's just offering a different option. And I think that is a thing that to people that are very rigid and very dogmatic and very um hateful,
Ah,
just
say it.
just the mere fact of just offering another option or offering another way of being without saying you have to do this and without saying like this is what you should do or this is who you are or whatever, but is just there to listen and is just there to say it's your life, you can do whatever you like, but I don't know if you've
Totally.
thought about this other thing, and
Yeah.
if you
Have you
do,
thought about the
great.
other options? Maybe the
Yeah,
person who beats you is not the person you spend the rest of your
yeah,
life
have
with?
you thought have
Just
you
saying.
thought that you don't have to suffer with an abusive husband for the rest of your life? That would be really
Yeah.
cool. Hey, have you thought that, like, maybe you could love someone even though like, someone new even though your husband died 50 years ago
Yeah.
or whatever? Like, that's I think that is the thing that for a lot of people who are very dogmatic in their thinking,
Hmm.
anyone who comes along and says, you can be exactly who you want to be and I'm going to love and accept you and there are other options out there is the most threatening person because they are not being dogmatic and they are not being prescriptive and they are saying you should live your life and you should be happy and you're allowed to be happy and it is important for you to enjoy your life for yourself not for other people. And that is, like, the most threatening thing to this prescriptive way of living.
Yeah. And I love that the movie dramatizes the point that the people who most need to hear that are the people who are uh, doling out that philosophy. Because obviously it's
Exactly.
Lecomte who is sort of like the most repressed, the most sort of
Yeah.
angry on the inside, and his sort of like admittedly somewhat hilarious sort of orgasmic
Yes.
experience with the
Well,
chocolate that he
and
wants to destroy but ultimately has to imbibe is like his the ultimate at the very end is sort of like the culmination of this like, oh, the person who was the most rigid telling other people they needed to be that rigid was the person who needed that message the most to
and even
get into contact with themselves again.
and even in that end scene when Alfred Molina, like, is smashing the things in the chocolate shop and is, like, eating the chocolate and, like, has this, like, manic whatever, Vienne does not meet that with anger or disappointment or aggression. She gives him an Alka-Seltzer and says, "This will help your stomach. Are you okay? I let's get you cleaned up. Like, she meets it with true kindness and compassion in a way that Lecomte would never have met her with. And that, to me, that is the strength of character that Vianne represents. Of She is obviously a complicated woman, and she's obviously has complex feelings and all of these things, but at the end of the day, like, she is upholding the Christian morals, the so-called Christian morals
Right. That these other people purport to be holding
that
up.
the other people purport to be, but they really aren't. Looking at you, our entire fucking government. So, sorry, that's it. That's it. I'm not gonna touch it more. And I think the other piece that you touched on as well of, Vianne kind of being the witch, right? She's the sort of
Right.
magical creature.
The
She
agent of chaos, if you will, but chaos not necessarily
Chaos
being
isn't good or
bad.
bad.
Chaos is creative, right? Chaos
Yeah,
makes things. Chaos in the void births
creates
things into the
things. Yeah.
world.
But I think the other thing that I really do like about this movie, um, that is comes through very strongly are the relationships between the women in the film and how
Totally. That's my favorite thing about the movie is that
oh,
aspect of it.
it's so great. Like Armand, I love her. I'm like, I want a cranky old grandma who gives me like horror poetry to read and is like, yeah, fuck the system, man. This is all bullshit. Like, yes.
Somebody made a good point that like oh yeah, it was one of the reviews that we read that was like some this movie makes it look like the poster of this movie makes it look like it's going to be like a rom-com with like
It's
Johnny
not.
Depp and Julia Binoche doing sexy things to each other. But
No.
really the movie is about that. It's about women in community with each other trying to form a different basis of society that is anti-rigid and anti repressed, you know.
Yeah, and accepts the realities that guess what? Probably nobody else is listening to you, but I'm listening to you. Like, Lecomte is not seeing that Serge is abusing Josephine. He's not seeing that. He's
Hmm.
seeing you're married, period, full stop. That is sanctified in the eyes of the Lord. But Vianna is like, but no, incorrect. Should she stay with someone who is abusing her because that's what God wants? Really?
Hmm.
Seriously? And this is her problem that she has to deal with? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and it's yeah, and even at the end, uh, Carrie Ann Moss's character like kind of comes around where she is sort of that rigid, dogmatic person, but even she comes around to like
Yeah.
there's actually
This
more
is
joy to be found.
this is where the comforting nature of this as a sweet comfort movie comes in because a in either a more I don't know, a story about a city going through these issues that was bigger or a more serious movie or maybe just the real world if you're being cynical, like there would be people in this society who would need to die and be killed to get to the next step of right. It's like people don't give up
Eh,
their power this easily, you know. But the nice
correct.
thing is that like in this sweet kind of like hot chocolatey version of this story, like everybody kind of comes around in the small town, and you can accomplish this in a story about a small town where like everybody kind of
And it's
learns the lesson, the nice lesson that like yes, this is what you ought to, you know,
and
this is how you
it's
ought to live your life.
well, and I think also it's this film I think as well exemplifies something that I believe in very strongly, which is that change often like doesn't you change people's lives through being kind.
Right.
to them. And that is important. Be
Kill them with kindness.
showing people kindness and showing and giving people grace
Hmm.
can be truly revolutionary in a lot of ways. And I'm not talking about like, it's not going to like overthrow a government or stop a regime or whatever. But in these ways of when you extend humanity to another person, sometimes if they have not given you that, that can be life changing. I'm not saying to do this to the Harvey Weinsteins of the world and the horrible people, but I'm saying like on a person to person level, for the most part, I truly believe people are good. And it often takes the courage to show genuine, actual kindness and humanity to them to break ways of thinking, to break those harmful cycles. Like that is life changing.
Yeah, it's the only thing that changes people on a one-to-one individual interaction basis, right? It's like giving people empathy. Like it's true. Like as much as we want to scream and shout at people, and as good as it makes us feel, and as righteous as it makes us feel, and as correct as you might be, it doesn't actually change anyone's mind, unfortunately. The thing that changes people's mind is opening your empathy muscles to them and hoping against hope that they do it too. I was having an interesting conversation with somebody earlier today about like somebody asked me, "What movie would you what's a classic movie that they should like remake or whatever?" And I was like, "Huh, that's an interesting question." I was like, it would be interesting to hear somebody to see somebody remake like It's a Wonderful Life, which is very much about this
Oh,
same kind of concept
yeah,
of like be a
yeah,
good person. Good things will come to you even if you're not seeking glory from it, like
yeah,
being a decent person is better than being famous or rich or xyz,
yeah.
and because I've watched it with people recently who have never seen it before, It's a
Oh,
Wonderful
that's
Life,
interesting.
and they're like, this is kind of stupid and corny, and of course I have all these nostalgic associations with it from my
Yeah,
childhood as a classic movie, and I don't see it that way. Interesting thought exercise. I was like, that would be interesting to see somebody take that subject matter that seems so corny and maybe even like irrelevant and almost like in some ways almost like pandering seeming, and try to find a way to get that message across to a modern audience that makes sense
that's
to them, where
interesting.
it's not just corny, it's actually about like, no, really reaching across the aisle, really doing it, which is harder than it looks like, and trying to get people to understand where you're coming from by reaching out to them first, by putting yourself in another person's shoes. Like, it's absolutely one of the hardest things to do these
It
days,
is.
right?
It is. It is the hardest thing, and I think that's why, like, TV shows like Ted Lasso is a great example. Um, Shrinking is a great example. Anything that Brett Goldstein's done, actually, um, is the perfect example of that. Is because right now, we do not have a lot of examples of true kindness in our world, and true kindness is very hard. It is very hard
Yeah.
to think the best of people, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to show up every day with positivity and openness and the understanding that I'm probably not going to change your mind, but that doesn't mean that we have to be cruel to one another. Those
You
are
gotta
really
take this day by day,
Gotta
one
take it day
little
by day,
thing at
and
a time.
it's one day at a time, and yeah. But I think having these examples of that, like, that are shown in Chocolat, I think that's why it's comforting. That's why it's comforting to see, and that's why it
Totally,
this movie still resonates 25 years later because I think in general most people are looking for a little bit more kindness in their
totally.
lives. And I don't mean niceness because I think I heard I was talking to somebody who's from the East Coast and moved to the Bay Area and then moved back to the East Coast. And we were talking about the idea that
What a
people on
roller
the
coaster
West
ride.
well, we were talking about, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm from the West Coast and I moved to the East Coast and all this stuff." And I was like, I've found it to be very true that people on the West Coast often are very nice, but they're not very kind.
Right.
And people on the East Coast are usually pretty kind, but they're not very nice.
Totally.
And it's a difference. It's a difference.
I agree with that. And may I also add, though, that in the opposite way, or in a different way, there is also this kind of like high energy, like people are stressed out on the East Coast in ways that people are not stressed out on the West Coast. It's
Correct.
like on the East Coast, people are like still fighting the British or something. And on the
I don't
West
know what
Coast,
the fuck is going on, but accurate. Accurate.
and on the West Coast, everyone's like, we're chill, like it's cool, we got
We're
sunshine, it's
fucking
fine,
vibing. Like, who gives a
So,
shit?
so yeah, all those things are true of the character of our
But
country. Um,
I think that is to say being
this is
kind
a
is not easy, but it is necessary, and that
yes,
is what Chocolat brings in the character
yes,
Vienne, is someone and in the character of Armand, who is not very nice, but
oh yeah,
is
totally.
is a very kind like, that's the important thing. Empathy, compassion, and kindness, which are really fucking hard. It is
Hmm.
really hard to embody those traits.
But it gets easier if you practice
But
it.
it gets easier the more you do it. Today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Chocolat. Did you think that chocolate was already perfect and couldn't possibly be improved upon? If you said yes, you're an idiot with no imagination.
Whoa,
Welcome
okay.
to Chocolat, a world of pure imagination and chocolate with a punch.
What an appropriate sponsor for this week's podcast.
I know, isn't it? Ever needed chocolate that gets you up in the morning? Caffeine chocolate keeps you alert, awake, and feeling like a tasty snack. Not dissimilar to Alfred motherfucking Molina.
That's right.
Need a pick me up from a bad mood, but stupid normal chocolate just isn't doing enough for you? Ambient chocolate gets you through the hard times. Trying to get your microdose game on point? We've got mushroom chocolate that helps you talk to trees. Wait, no, that's already a thing. These ones are just from my drug dealer.
Oh, right.
But watch out, bitches and witches. We've got a spicy, spicy chocolate treat with the distilled power of 5,000 coca leaves.
Whoa.
It's coca cacao. Oh man, try saying that 5 times fast. I will not be doing that. You can when you eat or snort our patented cocaine chocolate.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I love this sponsor. I've been doing and sampling many of their products. What am I saying? I don't know. We should open a restaurant. Have you ever tried to talk to your birth mother, but then you're like, "Oh my god, I'm talking actually to a squirrel in the park." Ah! That
It's
yes.
all fun times. Everything I say is interesting. I can't stop. I won't stop. I don't want to.
Chocolat comes in bars, pills, or in IV drip form. Chocolat. For all those times you want chocolate to be just a little more exciting. Don't limit yourself. Get Chocolat today. Thanks, Chocolat, for sponsoring this podcast and my 5 a.m. mania fueled cleaning sessions. I appreciate you and I love it.
We're back with more brother sibling movie. Um, Before we get into final thoughts and takeaways, I just kind of want to give a little quick shout out to um, the music of this movie, and
Please.
I don't just mean the Django Reinhardt song that everybody got completely obsessed with because of this movie
Which
at
is
the time
which
that
is
it came
great.
out, which is great.
Let's talk
But
Rachel fucking Portman.
Rachel Portman, you did a great job. I think that you did a lot of hard work to make a very specific cultural mix mashup sound, and you did it deftly, and you kept the magic alive. And the the actors' performances are great, but the music does a lot to instill this fairy tale
Yes.
magical realism kind of sensibility that the world exists in, and I was just so taken with how cleverly put together and composed the music of this movie was. So just wanted to shout out to Rachel Portman.
Shout out. And also for like bringing in kind of Vienne's themes a lot of South American like woodwinds and like bringing in that South American and European flavor. It was wonderful. The music,
Slaps.
the whole the whole soundtrack is amazing. This is probably like in genuinely in my head, I'm like, this is up there with like Lord of the Rings, like Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
in terms of a film that is not about music, right? Because like I'm
Mhm.
like, yes, like Almost Famous has a great soundtrack, but it's about music.
That's easy. You just take the best songs of 10 years worth of the best years of music and just shove them into a movie, and you're going to have a great soundtrack.
But this is like in terms of a film that is not about music, but has such a specific musical language that adds so much to the film. This I think Rachel Portman's score on this film is a true standout. Like it's incredible.
Yeah,
It's an
uh,
incredible achievement cinematically.
agreed. And we did not even really talk about Johnny Depp, but he's in this movie. So there you go.
I mean, he's in this movie.
He's got an Irish accent. He plays the guitar. He's got a ponytail. You get the idea. You
He's hot as
understand.
fuck. Like what are you going to do? Like it's just
It was peak Johnny Depp
it was peak Johnny
era.
Depp. And like here's the thing. It's a great performance. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. He's great in this
Mhm.
movie. He's great.
Totally. Love him. Shall we get into final thoughts and takeaways?
I would love it. Let's do it. I shall begin because I wrote
Sure.
a short thing that is probably not as good as yours because you're better at writing about films than I am. But let's start. Okay.
All I have is more practice at bullshitting because of college.
I have
You had
yeah,
to
I
do real
well,
work in college.
I was gonna say
you had to make things that had form and anatomy and functioned and color theory. I got to put words together and make people think
they
I was smart.
genuinely the fact that I was a halfway decent writer did fuck all for me in college. It did
Which is
fuck
too
all.
bad because you're a great writer. You should have been at a
Thank
more
you.
liberal arts college and had more of a English
No.
degree or
No,
something. But
no, instead, my soul was crushed on a weekly basis, for the art that I did. So that was fun. Anyway, let's go into my thoughts and
hooray,
takeaways.
hooray, art school.
Chocolat wraps almost too many good things into one film. It's genuinely hard to find anything to criticize about the story. So I won't. Get ready for some gushing. From From start to finish, this movie is the definition of cozy, as we have said many times already. The whole ethos of this story feels comforting. After all, what's more comforting than creating community, building friendships, helping people, and eating chocolate? Vienne is one of those rare people who operates from such a place of kindness and authenticity that others can't help but be utterly charmed by her. She's the opposite of the evil witch who comes to town and enchants everyone with her wicked ways. Her magic comes from her connection to others, her love, and her dedication to her truest self. Juliette Binoche plays Vianne with a beautiful blend of humility, strength, sadness, and joy. It's a delight to watch her act in this film. The whole cast meshes and plays perfectly together as an ensemble. I mean, the dame herself is in this movie, bringing in the cranky old lady energy in a wonderful way, if I do say so myself. The aesthetics, the wardrobe, the cinematography, the music, the everything about this film is wonderful. Like, seriously, I just love this movie. It's always going to be a yes for me when folk tale elements blend with a period film to make a comfy, cozy, magical piece of art. Also, seriously, can we all agree that Alfred Molina is objectively sexier than Johnny Depp? The thin mustache, the
Ha!
close up of his lips licking chocolate, the raw manliness of ripping up his wife's dresses, truly undeniable.
Woo!
I would also just very quickly like to do a little asterisk here. Um, I I don't really think Alfred Molina is sexy. I just think that it's a fun joke. We can cut that out if it breaks the fourth wall too much.
This is like your John Oliver bit about Adam Driver. You're just like
I
digging
think
your heels deeper into the Alfred Molina.
I'm digging my heels in deeper and deeper into the Alfred Molina stan. And P.S. I don't think the John Oliver Adam Driver thing is a joke at this point. I do think it's
I don't
real.
think so either.
I don't
I
think
think
it's a
I
joke.
think there's a deeply repressed thing going on that John Oliver has found a great way to express in his job and his everyday
Accurate.
life. Well, let me generate a little GIF for the brother sibling movie social media thing as I continue to do this for a moment, and let me get into my thoughts and takeaways about Chocolat. Chocolat is a near past fairy tale told from the perspective of the witch.
Mhm.
Think about it. Vianne is not a princess escaping into the woods, but the wandering traveler coming to town with potions to make everyone's dreams come true. She resolutely opposes the rigid, dogmatic teachings of the local church, and her chocolate spells help give people what they want at a cost. Although in this case, the cost would appear to be their own liberation. In the modern context, witches have come to be reimagined, or perhaps revealed as what they always were in the first place, as women who fight for the collective liberation of their peers, leaders in the thought revolution of breaking the chains with dominant hierarchical thinking and replacing it with social structures centered around healing. But in order to heal from repression, often one must indulge in the decadence of life. Enter chocolate. There are many films that accentuate the sensual nature of chocolate and chocolate making. This film, in particular, veers a little bit more towards the PG-13 version, as it was of that very specific era of 2000s Miramax feel good Oscar bait kind of movies. That being said, it plays very nicely as a central metaphor for the unlocking of hidden passions of the town folks of this quaint little French town. I don't feel like it can be overstated how much heavy lifting the music is doing, and not just the River Rats rendition of Django Reinhardt's hot jazz classic Minor Swing that became a bit of a phenomenon after this movie was released. Don't get me wrong, the cast performances are, if not electric, filled with pathos and a deep sense of empathy. But Rachel Portman's score, which finds a perfect mix of French and South American influences, sells the sense of a magic on the wind that is always lurking around the corner in the world of this film. As a tale, mainly, of a repressed religious town coming to unlock their inner desires, and secondly, as a story about women helping each other overcome the shackles of patriarchal rule, it's no wonder that this movie got nominated for Best Picture. That and the loudmouth campaigning of convicted felon Harvey Weinstein. I was surprised at many people's responses to this movie, calling it just plain bad in so many words. I feel like this movie suffered in the court of public opinion from its own Oscar nomination. That cultural response of the avid film lover seeing a just fine movie getting elevated to the level of high art praise and awards glory. But to me, this movie is exactly what it needs to be: a warm cup of hot chocolate with a pinch of rebellious attitude mixed in a mug of nostalgia, served to us, hopefully, on a brisk fall evening where we can indulge in the pleasures of a semi sweet story that gives us just enough of what we need to delight our senses.
Nicely done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank my agent and my
Oh,
parents and the
oh
many,
yeah.
many people that I stepped on to get to the top of this delightful ladder of power.
It's, the thing I've always said about you, Evan, power hungry, vindictive, in it for themselves.
Like
Always.
a real Julius Caesar over here, you know?
Really, yeah. Beautifully, beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Yes.
No,
Rereading it, um maybe a little jumping all over the place with ideas, but
I liked it.
it encapsulated all the thoughts I had about this
I know,
movie,
I
so
loved it. I loved it. Can I ask you a real quick question? Do you like
yes.
chocolate?
To be perfectly honest, I'm more of a vanilla guy, but I
Oh my
do
god,
like chocolate just fine.
I don't eat a lot of chocolate because it
Hmm.
actually gives me migraines.
Oh
If I
no!
eat too much chocolate, it somehow it's a migraine trigger for me. And
Oh jeepers!
I actually, controversial opinion, fucking love vanilla ice cream. I think it's better than chocolate ice cream. Sorry, not sorry. Um,
Hit the little piece on your soundboard that's all of the booze.
wait,
Boo!
wait, do I have booze?
Gucci, Gucci, Prada.
Gucci, Gucci, Prada. Okay.
Wait,
Gucci, Gucci, Prada.
what the
Wow.
fuck? That
That's an
says that button says gabble.
gabble. Okay, we're learning new things about your soundboard. I remember that one from the time you accidentally played it on another podcast, and
Yeah.
it's great every time.
The best part, that button says smirk,
Wow.
not psycho laughing as they murder your mom in front of you.
Psychotic laughter. I believe it's
Sorry.
time for something that you may.
I think it might be time for something like
Tambok na tiksi. Tambok na tiksi.
a vibe check. It's time for a vibe check. For those of
Vibe
you
check.
who are listening for the very first time, first of all, thank you. This has been about as coordinated as Evan and I ever are. So thank you for listening. But
Yeah.
Evan and I do not rate things on stars or numbers or anything. We rate films on two
Cut it
things
out.
and cut it out. Two
Two
things and
things.
two things only. And that is, how is the story and how are the vibes? So, Evan, how is the story and how are the vibes?
You know, like we discussed over the course of this podcast, I think that the story is pretty serviceable, right? Like it's not like completely for the subject matter it's tackling, it's not like revolutionary, but it's like very nice. This is the story and the vibe of this movie, as we discussed. It's like a cup of hot chocolate
Yeah.
on a Sunday afternoon in a brisk with a on a brisk fall morning, you know? It's like
Yes.
it feels like comfort. It feels like good times. It feels like nostalgia for an old time that was good. Not in a racist way, but just in kind of
Not
like
in a racist, horrible way.
just in kind of like a cozy, like, yeah, people used to wear like flannel and like cute cardigans and like try to be
Yeah.
a cute kind of vibe. So all of those things to say, like, I think this is exactly the kind of thing. Weirdly, it's not a movie about fall, but it is the perfect kind of movie to ring in a fall
Yeah.
feeling,
It is. It is. And
giving strong October vibes.
giving strong October vibes, though it is set in February.
Yes.
Which, whatever, that's fine. I would say the story is very sweet, and I think the vibes are like, it is simple and sweet. That is
It
sort of
reminds it reminds
overarching.
it reminds me of like making chocolate chip cookies with mom and taking handfuls of the semi-sweet morsels and just like dipping them into your mouth. Like that's the kind of vibe it gives, you know?
It does. It's very, like you said, I think it's a great.
Dipping your
It's not.
finger in the chocolate chip cookie dough and eating it before it's
Yeah,
cooked. That kind of a
it's
vibe.
it's not revolutionary. It's not gonna, you know, move mountains or change the course of a nation. But
Right.
it's but it's
It's no
but
bridge
I
on the River Kwai.
oh my god. But I think, though, that I would just like to say there is always a place for these kinds of stories, and I think that these types of stories are very necessary. Stories that center human connection and stories that center just being a good person. It's good to be reminded that being nice is not like that being kind and being empathetic and being compassionate are not weaknesses. They are strengths. Those are hard things to maintain, and it is good to do. Two thumbs up.
Who's got
Um,
two thumbs and is a good person? These people.
you know what? Jury's still out on me. But
Mayor, where can the good people find us?
the good people can find us on many social media platforms. They can find us on LetterBoxd at BSM Pod. They can find us on YouTube at Brother Sibling Movie. They can find us on Instagram at Brother Sibling Movie. You can email us thoughts, takeaways, opinions, feelings, etc. at brothersiblingmovie@gmail.com.
And where can the bad people find us?
The bad people can find us in the fucking squared circle, brother.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'll
That's what you
fucking fight
said.
you. I'll
Come into
fucking
the
fight you.
octagon. Give us a try. See what
Give
see what you
Fuck
come
it.
up
See what
against.
happens. I'm not very strong, but I'm fucking crazy. That's the vibe. No, also the bad people can find me on Instagram at Lon Daddy Lives Here. There's underscores between each of the words. You can find Evan of where, places, things.
My social media handles, Art of Evan K. You can also find me on my portfolio website of all my art and the things that I do at artofevank.com. Also, don't forget to check out my movie reviews on LetterBoxd. I am Evan Kerna. That's EVANKOEHNE, spelled just like it sounds.
Exactly like it sounds. That's why I got married and changed my name,
There you
motherfucker.
go.
Um,
I think it's time to sign off.
Time to sign off. I love you so much.
I love you so much too. Let's do this again next week.
And you know what we'll do and how I'll let you go? Go watch a movie with your sibling.
Go watch a movie with your sibling.
I fucking will. Bye.
I fucking will! Much love, happiness, wine, and chocolate. Peace be the journey, happiness, and all the things. Glug, glug, glug. I'm
Please
on
don't
my
drive.
I'm on my 5th glass of wine.
Please don't drive. Please don't drive. Please don't drive. Please don't drive.